I gave up my apartment to help raise their baby. When I fell on the stairs and hurt my leg, my son-in-law said, "That's what happens when you overstay your welcome." My daughter said, "Maybe it's time you go back to wherever you came from." So I did. But I took one thing with me they wouldn't notice until it was too late. I'm a 62-year-old woman. I worked as a nurse's aide most of my life. I never made much, but I made it work. I raised 2 kids without help from anyone. Their dad left when they were little. I never remarried. I didn't have time. My whole life was about making sure my kids had food, a roof, and shoes that fit. I gave them everything I had. When my daughter Mallory called crying last year, I didn't even think before saying yes. She and her husband Justin were having their first baby. She was scared, exhausted, and stressed. Said she couldn't handle everything: money, work, being pregnant. They live in Evansville, Indiana. I lived alone in a 1-bedroom apartment in Louisville. It was small but quiet. I loved that place. But I told her I'd give it up and move in to help. She said, "You would really do that for us?" I told her, "Of course I would. You're my daughter." I broke my lease early. Packed up my whole apartment. Sold my couch. Gave away my microwave and extra dishes. I figured I wouldn't need them where I was going. I didn't think it would be forever, but I thought I'd stay for at least a year. Long enough to help them settle, help with the baby, and let Mallory go back to work if she wanted. When I got there in early December, it was tight. They had a 2-story house with 3 bedrooms, but only 1 extra room upstairs. They cleared it out for me. There was a twin mattress on the floor, an old lamp, and barely any space for my clothes. I didn't complain. I told myself, this is temporary. You're here to help. Mallory had a hard pregnancy and ended up needing a C-section. She was in pain for weeks. Couldn't lift the baby without help. Justin was working long hours. He'd just started at a new insurance job. So I took over. I mean, really took over. I cooked all the meals. Cleaned up. Woke up 3 or 4 times a night when the baby cried. Did the laundry. Folded their clothes. Took the baby on walks. Scrubbed bottles. Changed diapers. I was on my feet all day. My back hurt. My hands were raw from washing dishes constantly. I figured they were just too tired to notice. I didn't expect a medal. I just thought they'd appreciate it. But they didn't. Not even a thank you. After a few months, I started to notice little things. Justin would say things like, "We're going through food like crazy," or, "You're always using the washer." I tried to ignore it. I thought maybe I was being sensitive. But it kept happening. Mallory wasn't much better. She stopped talking to me like a daughter talks to her mother. It was all orders. "Can you take him? Can you wash these?" He spit up again, "Get a clean outfit." I'd nod and go do it. I kept telling myself they were just tired. Stressed. That I'd get a real thank you eventually. A hug. Something. But that never came. One day, I asked Justin if he could move his car so I could go to the store. He looked at me and said, "You act like this is your place." Then walked off. I felt my stomach twist. I'd been living there for over 6 months at that point. Not once had I gone out with friends. Not once had I done anything for myself. I'd given up everything, my space, my freedom, my peace, just to help them. But now I was a problem. I was in the way. It got worse from there. Mallory started treating me cold. She would leave the baby in my room while I was sleeping. No knock. Just drop him off and walk away. Once I asked her if I could take a weekend off to visit my sister. She said, "How are we supposed to manage without you?" That hit hard. I realized then that I wasn't a guest. I wasn't even a family member anymore. I was a tool. A worker. a free nanny and maid. Then, one Saturday afternoon, it happened. I was carrying a basket of laundry down the stairs. Their stairs are narrow and steep, and one of the steps near the middle is a little loose. I knew that. I always tried to be careful. But that day, my knee gave out a little, and I stepped wrong. I slipped and crashed down 4 steps. Landed hard on my leg and back. The basket flew, clothes scattered, and I screamed out loud. No one came. I laid there, shocked and in pain. My leg throbbed, and my hip felt like it had been hit with a hammer. I pulled myself up slowly. Limped into the kitchen, still shaking. Justin was standing there with his phone in one hand and a coffee in the other. He looked at me and said, "That's what happens when you overstay your welcome." No emotion. No concern. No, "Are you okay?" Just that. I stood there in silence. My heart started pounding in my ears. I didn't say a word. Mallory came downstairs an hour later. I told her I fell. Showed her my swollen leg. You know what she said? She didn't even look twice. Just shrugged and said, "Maybe it's time you go back to wherever you came from." Wherever. Like I was some stray dog they picked up and got sick of. I didn't answer. I just turned and walked back upstairs, holding the railing tight the whole way up. That night, I packed quietly. The next morning, I called my old friend Denise in Louisville. She told me I could stay on her pull-out couch for a bit. I didn't even tell Mallory and Justin I was leaving. They were both out running errands. I just grabbed my bags and limped out the door. But before I left, I did one thing. Justin kept a small fireproof safe in their walk-in closet. I knew the code. He gave it to me months ago when Mallory lost her passport and needed to grab it before a flight. I opened it. Inside were some documents. A title, social security cards, and a white envelope. The envelope was thick. I counted it. $12,400. In cash. Mallory had mentioned once that they were saving cash for a down payment. She said they didn't trust banks. I didn't take it right away. I just stared at it. My hands were shaking. I thought about the late nights. The diapers. The meals. The silence. The way they treated me like garbage. Then I took it. I put it in the bottom of my suitcase under a pile of old pajamas. I haven't touched the money yet. It's in a secure spot only I know about. I haven't told Denise. I haven't told anyone. But I know they're going to notice. Maybe not today. Maybe not this week. But they will. And when they do, they'll turn on each other. They'll panic. They'll accuse each other. And I won't be there. To them, I was just a burden. Now I'm a ghost. It took them 4 days to call. I was staying with Denise, mostly resting my leg and trying to figure out what to do next. She offered me her spare bedroom after seeing how bad I was limping. She didn't ask too many questions, but she knew something had happened. I told her bits and pieces. She got quiet and said, "You always did more for people than they deserved." 4 days after I left, Mallory called. She didn't ask where I was. She didn't say she missed me. She didn't even check on my leg. She just said, "Hey. Justin can't find the safe." I kept my voice calm. "The safe?" "Yeah," she said. "The whole thing is gone." "You didn't see it, did you?" I let the silence hang. Then I said, "No. Haven't seen it." She didn't say anything for a second. I could feel her thinking. Then she asked, "Did you move it?" I said, "Why would I move something that doesn't belong to me?" Her tone changed. "Well, you lived here for almost a year. You cleaned everything. You were in our room. We figured maybe you tried to keep it safe while we were out or something." "No," I said. "I left things exactly how I found them." She didn't respond. Then, just before hanging up, she said, "Okay. Just let us know if you remember anything." I said, "Sure." And that was it. But I knew that wasn't the end. Because the next day, Justin called me. This time, there was no fake niceness. He went straight to it. "I know you took the damn safe." I didn't respond. "I'm serious. No one else was in the house. It's gone. You were pissed off when you left." "It makes sense." I said, "You know what else makes sense? Not insulting the one person who gave up her home to raise your kid for free." He snapped. "That money was ours. We saved it for years. If you think you can just walk away with it," I cut him off. "Don't call me again, Justin." I hung up. After that, it got worse. 2 days later, I got a call from a blocked number. It was Mallory. "You need to return the money," she said, voice shaking. "I don't care how mad you are. You crossed a line." I said, "And what line did you cross when you told me to go back to wherever I came from?" She got quiet. Then she said something that stayed with me. "You're not the victim here, Mom. You took something that wasn't yours." I laughed. I didn't mean to, but it came out. Sharp, bitter. "Mallory," I said, "you're right. I did take something. But you're wrong about one thing. I'm not the victim." I hung up again. After that, the messages started. Emails. Texts. Even a message from Justin's sister telling me I was selfish and cruel. I ignored them. But then a letter showed up at Denise's house. I don't even know how they found her address. It was from a lawyer. Just a piece of paper with a typed message saying they were seeking the return of misappropriated personal property. It wasn't a real lawsuit. Not yet. Just a threat. Denise asked if I was okay. I told her, they're not going to do anything. But I wasn't so sure. I started thinking maybe I'd made a mistake. Maybe I should have just left the safe alone. Maybe I should have just left with my pride and nothing else. But then something happened that snapped me out of it. A friend of mine from church in Louisville ran into Mallory at a grocery store. She told me Mallory was there with the baby, still in his pajamas, no shoes on, dried food on his face. She was on the phone, loud and angry. She heard her say, "She robbed us. I hope she dies alone." That was my daughter. That was the little girl I gave everything for. And she hoped I'd die alone. I didn't cry. Not then. I felt something harden in my chest. Something that had been soft for too long. So I made a decision. I wasn't just going to disappear. I was going to make sure they knew exactly what they threw away. A week passed with no more calls. No texts. No letters. It got quiet. Too quiet. That's when I knew they were planning something. Denise tried to distract me, invited me to bingo night, asked if I wanted to help her with her church charity table. I appreciated it, but I couldn't stop thinking about what Mallory said in that store. "I hope she dies alone." I couldn't believe she said that out loud. In public. With her baby next to her. I kept thinking, what kind of person says that about their own mother? Then the next twist came. I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. It was a woman named Brooke. Said she worked in HR at Justin's company. Said she was just trying to confirm some details. I asked, "What does this have to do with me?" She said, "Well, we received an anonymous tip that you've been taking money from Justin and Mallory without their permission. They said you may have access to private documents and may be planning to commit fraud." I nearly dropped the phone. I told her, I don't work for them. I was their family. She said she understood, that she was just checking. That night, I got angry. Really angry. Not sad, not hurt. Angry. I knew what this was. They were trying to ruin me. Paint me like some thief so I'd be too scared to keep the money, or maybe even return it. They wanted to scare me into disappearing again. But they forgot something. They forgot who I was. I raised 2 kids on 1 paycheck. I worked double shifts in the ER. I scrubbed blood off floors, dealt with drunks, addicts, screaming families. I kept a roof over our heads when the power company threatened to shut us off more than once. I wasn't some scared old woman they could bully. They started this. Now I was going to finish it. I dug through my old things, found a thumb drive I hadn't touched in years. On it were copies of every email Mallory sent me about moving in. Messages that said we need you, and we'll take care of you if you help us. I had pictures too, me with the baby, bottle feeding him while Mallory scrolled her phone. Me folding their laundry while they watched TV. I had grocery receipts in my name. Over $3,000 spent over the year on their food, diapers, medicine. All on my card. I started gathering it all. I wrote a timeline. I printed texts. I wrote out every dollar I spent, every day I worked unpaid. I wrote it all like a job log. I didn't know what I was going to do with it yet. But I knew I needed it. Then came the real twist. Denise called me into the living room one afternoon. She was watching a local news segment. Justin was on TV. Not for good reason. He was being investigated for internal fraud. Turns out someone inside his company had flagged him. There were questions about misreported accounts, missing documents, and sketchy client billing. They didn't say much on air, but it was clear he was in trouble. I sat down slowly. I had forgotten all about Justin's work. I had never asked. But then I remembered, he used to take calls at night from his office upstairs. He had folders and files stacked in the closet next to the safe. And sometimes, when Mallory was asleep, he'd be up late, whispering on his headset. I thought nothing of it. But now, something didn't sit right. That safe I took? It didn't just have cash. It had files. I hadn't touched them. I never opened them. But they were there. I got up, went to the storage unit, and unlocked the duffel bag where I stashed the safe. I opened it again. Dug through the papers. There were fake invoices. Fake names. Some real. And documents with account numbers that definitely weren't his. I realized something then. Justin wasn't mad I took the money. He was scared I took proof. I closed the safe. My hands were shaking. They thought I was some helpless woman they could toss aside. But I had something they didn't even know how to handle. And now, they weren't just going to pay for what they did to me. They were going to pay for everything. I spent the next 2 days going through every document in that safe. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. There were folders labeled with fake business names. Receipts made out to people I'd never heard of. But the more I read, the more I understood, Justin had been running a side scam through his job. He was funneling fake payments through shell companies, then skimming money back into his own accounts. Some of the companies were nothing more than a P.O. box or a Gmail address. I wrote down every name, every number, every date. And then I called a lawyer. Not the kind from TV, not some fancy downtown office. I called a woman named Clara, a legal aid attorney who helped seniors and veterans. She was tough, direct, and didn't care about small talk. I told her everything. I didn't lie or sugarcoat it. I took the safe, I said. But what I found inside is bigger than anything they think I did. She asked for copies. I gave her everything. After reviewing it, she said, "This isn't just fraud. This is federal." She gave me the name of someone at the IRS and another at the Indiana Department of Insurance Fraud. I didn't hesitate. I called both. I told them what I found and offered to hand it all over. At first, I didn't know if anything would come of it. These things take time. I figured they'd either thank me or toss it in a drawer. But then, 2 weeks later, it all blew up. It started with a news article, "Local insurance manager under federal investigation." It didn't name Justin directly, but the company was his. By the next week, his name was all over the news. He was suspended. Then fired. Then arrested. You know what the charges were? Wire fraud. Tax evasion. Money laundering. Over $200,000 skimmed over 3 years. The best part? Some of the fake companies he used? They were listed under Mallory's name. She had signed forms without reading them. He told her it was for insurance paperwork. Now she was under investigation too. She cried on the news, saying she had no idea. But I knew. I knew the truth. She didn't care about truth. She only cared when the house started falling down around her. After the arrest, Mallory called me. She didn't yell. She didn't accuse. She begged. "Mom, please. I didn't know. I didn't mean what I said. I was just tired. Justin said you were stealing from us. I didn't know what to believe. I should have never said those things to you." Her voice cracked. She sounded like a little girl again. I let her talk. Then I said, "You told me to go back to wherever I came from. You didn't ask if I was okay. You didn't even ask if I could walk after that fall. You let your husband humiliate me in my own daughter's house. I gave you everything, Mallory. And you threw me away." I didn't know what to do, she sobbed. I had a baby, I was drowning. I said, "I was drowning too. You just never looked." Then I said something I didn't think I'd ever say. "I hope you get your life together, for your son. But I'm done trying to fix things for people who hurt me." She asked if I'd ever forgive her. I didn't answer. I just hung up. A few weeks later, I got a letter in the mail. It was a check. From the state. They had closed Justin's fraud case and recovered some of the stolen money. Because I helped expose it, they were awarding me $10,000 as a whistleblower bonus. I smiled. I didn't take their money. I exposed their lies. And in the end, I got something they never expected: peace. Justin lost his job, his career, and may face jail time. Mallory's bank accounts are frozen while they investigate. They had to sell the house. Last I heard, she moved in with his parents, and they're trying to figure out how to afford a lawyer. Me? I rented a small 2-bedroom apartment in Louisville. Not fancy. But clean. Quiet. Mine. I bought a new microwave. A decent couch. Even started taking art classes at the community center. Something I've wanted to do since I was 30. And the safe? I threw it in the dumpster behind a gas station, empty. Because I don't need it anymore. I already took what I needed. Not the money. My power back.